Domitian was born in the year 51 AD, the youngest son of Vespasian, a respected general, and Domitilla the elder. From the very beginning, his life was shaped not by light, but by shadow. When Domitian was still a boy, Rome was consumed by fire and chaos under Emperor Nero. Civil war erupted after Nero's death, and the empire fell into the bloody struggle of the Year of the Four Emperors. His father, Vespasian, was far away commanding legions in Judea, while Domitian himself remained in Rome, powerless and vulnerable. It was in this crucible of violence that Domitian learned a harsh truth. In Rome, survival depended not on innocence, but on cunning. When Vespasian finally seized power and founded the Flavian dynasty in 69 AD, Domitian's life changed forever. Yet, even within his own family, he was overshadowed. His elder brother Titus was celebrated as the warrior prince, admired by both the people and the Senate. Domitian, by contrast, was left in the background, untrusted, overlooked, a figure on the margins of power. This neglect burned deeply into his soul. Domitian grew up watching others take glory while he remained in the shadows. It was in silence that he nurtured his resentment, his ambition, and his belief that one day, fate would place him above them all. The year 81 AD, Domitian's brother Titus died suddenly after only 2 years on the throne. Some whispered that Domitian himself had hastened his brother's death, though no proof was ever found. What mattered was this: the man who had lived in shadows now stood at the center of Rome. At the age of 30, Domitian became emperor, and, unlike his hesitant predecessors, he wasted no time showing the world that power was his by right. He portrayed himself not as a mere ruler, but as a living god. Statues of Domitian rose across the empire, gleaming in marble and gold. Coins bore his image with divine titles. In the Senate, he demanded to be addressed as Dominus et Deus, Lord and God. At first, his reign brought order. He reformed the administration, strengthened the frontiers, and restored discipline to the legions. Taxes were collected with ruthless efficiency. Corruption was punished. For a moment, it seemed Rome had found a stern but capable ruler. But beneath the surface, fear was already taking root. Domitian's obsession with control grew stronger each day. He trusted no one, not the Senate, not the generals, not even his own family. Rome had gained an emperor who demanded absolute obedience, and who would soon rule not through love, but through fear. As the years passed, Domitian's mask of order gave way to something darker. He began to see enemies everywhere: in the Senate, in the army, even among his closest advisors. Trials for treason multiplied. Senators were accused on the flimsiest charges, condemned and executed. Their estates were seized, their families ruined. To speak against the emperor, even in whispers, was to invite death. Domitian ruled like a god-king, but lived like a hunted man. He strengthened the palace guard, filled the halls with spies, and surrounded himself with astrologers to foresee plots against his life. At banquets, he watched every glance, every gesture, convinced that daggers hid behind the smiles. Fear spread through Rome like a poison. Senators entered the Curia in silence, knowing that any word might be their last. Generals who had once commanded legions now bowed like slaves. Even poets and philosophers were exiled or killed, their voices too dangerous for an emperor who trusted no truth but his own. What began as reforms had hardened into tyranny. Domitian was no longer simply emperor of Rome. He was its master of fear. By the final years of his reign, Domitian was consumed by paranoia. He trusted no one, not the Senate, not the generals, not even his own family. He ordered walls of polished stone in the palace so he could glimpse assassins approaching from behind. He slept little, wandering the halls at night, muttering about conspiracies. The executions grew relentless. Nobles, senators, and even friends vanished into silence. The Senate hated him, the aristocracy feared him, and the people saw only an emperor who demanded worship but gave suspicion in return. But tyranny breeds betrayal. In the year 96 AD, a conspiracy formed within his own palace. His chamberlain, freedman, and even his wife Domitia are whispered to have known. One autumn morning, as Domitian reviewed documents, assassins struck. He fought desperately, but was stabbed to death in his private chambers. When word spread, Rome did not mourn. The Senate rejoiced, erasing his name from inscriptions, damning his memory with damnatio memoria. Domitian, who demanded to be hailed as Lord and God, was now remembered only as a tyrant to be forgotten. Yet his shadow lingered, a reminder of how fear can rule more strongly than love. But never forever. Domitian's reign ended in blood and betrayal, but his shadow stretched far beyond his death. To some, he was a monster, paranoid, cruel, and unworthy of the purple. To others, he was a necessary ruler who defended the empire's borders, reformed the economy, and restored order after years of chaos. But history is written by those who survive. The senators who hated him ensured his name would be cursed. His statues were toppled, his memory condemned. Damnatio memoria turned him into a ghost emperor, erased from honor but never from fear. And yet, his story is more than one man's paranoia. It is a lesson carved into Rome's marble walls. Power built on fear will one day collapse in betrayal. Suspicion may silence voices, but it cannot silence truth. Domitian's downfall reminds us that tyranny never dies of old age. It is always cut down by the very blades it fears most. Domitian's body was hurriedly buried, not with the honor of an emperor, but with the shame of a tyrant. No grand funeral, no mourning crowd, only whispers that the empire had been freed from a shadow. And yet, centuries later, historians still argue about him. Was he a despot consumed by fear, or a stern ruler who held Rome together through discipline? Was his paranoia madness, or simply the cost of absolute power? In the end, Domitian remains a paradox. A man who demanded to be called Lord and God, yet was struck down like any mortal. A ruler who sought eternity, but found only erasure. Rome moved on, but the question remains for us. When power rests only on fear, is it ever truly secure?